everyone, Millie and Chloe here from Lightwave 3D.
Today we're going to be interviewing a Lightwave pioneer and extraordinary animator, Andy Bishop, to celebrate Lightwave Digital's second anniversary.
Or in Andy's words, he is
super lovely, wonderful, charming, great.
Tell us a little bit about your experience with Lightwave and what was the path to buying it.
I've obviously been in the industry for 20, 25 years, hence the grey hair, baggy chin, the usual thing. So basically, I've animated on films, TV shows, and throughout all that time, I'm obviously using Lightwave extensively for that. And we had Maya in-house as well, and a little bit of Houdini at one point, and even Blender, and had most of the packages basically in there. The key thing for me with Lightwave was that it was super fast, and it enabled us to output shots quicker than any other package. The animation interface is also designed using the same kind of language used in the film and TV industry. So, and another important thing is the XYZ axis of Lightwave is the same as Maya's, and again matches the film industry, whereas those coordinates are different in some other packages that mean it's not, fully compatible. So, so basically that. When we got the opportunity, Lightwave was not really being heavily developed. We had the opportunity to get hold of that. It took us quite a while to do. I think it took us the best part of 3 years to get hold of Lightwave. So probably meant it had little or no development over that time. I think I'd helped with the last update, which was the 2020 version of Lightwave, with new tech. It was a lot of the suggestions I'd given them, which was for that update before we bought it. So I kind of knew it fairly well, but that was really what enabled us to be in a discussion with them. They knew me, I knew them, we were friends. They gave us the opportunity to bid for it. And in fact, we'd had that accepted once, and then it got cancelled last minute from Newtek's end. So we probably could have had it 2 or 3 years earlier had that gone through. It didn't, and then I met Joe and Giles and the new team, and we started really going for it. Probably took us that last bit since Joe was involved, probably another 8-9 months, maybe a year, and we eventually got it on May the 4th, and it was which was a really lovely date, because obviously Star Wars, and and Lightwave was used on Star Wars, of course, so it was fantastic to get it on that date. The handover was on that date.
Are there any key milestones that stand out to you since Lightwave's revival 2 years ago?
I suppose several things. One was the initial reaction of the people when we bought it was extraordinary. So, we did it by the seat of our pants. We needed help from them and input from them and so on. And we got massive support on both pre-orders and ideas and thoughts and so on. So the community impact was certainly one of the biggest elements that made us super happy that we got it right. So that was very important. I think then we released, I think the first release was the Christmas after, and we did that, and again we bought some of the plugins that previously were third-party plugins, and we added them, done a few bits and bobs of fixes, but obviously a lot of that initial time you've got to get hold of the code. You've got to look at the code, see actually what you've got. There were things missing, and so we didn't have access to everything. It was a real struggle. To got the first update out at all by that point was frankly damn near to being, a miracle. But we did, and we got that first one out, and it was certainly the biggest update they'd had. And obviously I could say since 2020 when the last update, but it was probably the biggest one for many years before that, and functionally it was adding things that were missing. So I'm very proud of that first one. We then did the second update, which added even more features, but really the third one, which we've just released, was the biggest update Lightwave's had in terms of under the hood and front of house, with new functionality. And things like the Ripper, I mean, it's a real-time pre-visualization system that could potentially go on to do more things later. That kind of technology is pretty much only just beginning to appear at that level where it's pretty photoreal lighting, or very much photoreal lighting, and instant. And although it's version 1, and yes, it's got limitations, it's an extraordinary step in the right direction for future. But the point about what that we've just done is it's the step of the next generation of 3D, and it's faster than any other system out there. But I've already been using it on animatics for all of our internal sugar cube animations. It's fantastic. And so the milestones, getting back to the question, are two things, I suppose. That initial hit of the backup of all the end users, and of course now that release of 3, which is really ours, as opposed to us buying lots of things and adding a few things. It's basically all the team internally programming it and so on. I'm very proud of that latest update. I think it's fantastic. And the anime part of it is extraordinary. And it's, again, ahead of anything else out there. We're going to be doing some things that will take that significantly further. And that first step we've just done is already ahead of the rest. So, it's very, very proud of that one. Yeah.
Have you followed a specific strategy since taking over?
Yes, we call it the shotgun strategy, where we just go in random direction. No, we very much so. So when we before we bought Lightwave, we already had a plan. So one that we created initially, I think probably now 7 years old, whatever, where we were looking ahead at what the technologies that are coming. So when you do a piece of software, you can do 2 methods of programming: by the seat of your pants, where you just make it up as you go along, or you look ahead at what the CPU speed is going to be and what the GPU speed is going to be, and you program for that, right? So we knew there's going to be a 4090 and a 5090, and we knew that we know right now there'll be a 6090 and so on and so forth. So we know that each year the graphic cards will go up in speed by roughly 15 to 20% in speed overall, that you can then calculate for. 5 years ago, 7 years ago, when we were initially laying down the plan of that, we mapped all that out for 10 years ahead. So what we look at is, I suppose, 2 things. One is Lightwave had fallen behind. How do we get Lightwave to have the capabilities that the other packages have as quickly as possible, that enables it to be competitive? So that was really the first port of call, was getting Lightwave to be functionally competitive. The next part of it really is the rebuild of the inner structure of Lightwave and how we speed it up, get it to handle much bigger data sets, and gradually get more and more capability towards the real-time target, where obviously, longer term, we want as much to be real-time as possible. So we had to plan that, because you can't be doing stuff that you're doing today that's wasted. You've got to think about things you add now. Can that code be modified to where we're going, in order that it's not just dead technology? Now, there's 1 or 2 little bits that might be. Most of it, though, is completely forward thinking. So we're gradually changing over all the internal architecture. The recent build has Python 3 in as opposed to Python 2. And obviously we're going to be doing that to the graphic libraries throughout Lightwave going forward. So it is very, very much structured and very much thought about way ahead what we're actually producing today. We can hack together to improve the speed of Lightwave, but it's a dead end. What we actually have to do is go back and change the core of Lightwave, so that it isn't just good for 1 year ahead or 2 years ahead, it's good for 10 years ahead. So
Yeah, you have to make the foundation again, rather than just putting, plasters on cracks.
Yeah, and of course, one of the things when you do that kind of thing is, if you do that and you change everything too much, you don't take the users with you. So we've got to change it whilst looking and keeping it roughly the same as it is now. But actually, what that will enable us to do is do different paradigms for the interface and different things that basically are next generation, as opposed to past generation. But to do that, all the underlying stuff gradually has to be changed. So if you think about our camera system in Lightwave is WYSIWYG, it's what you see is what you get. So you look through the camera, you animate through the camera. You don't have to, but it's generally the best way to do it because it's what you see is what you get, and you bang. Now Lightwave does that so well, super fast. We're never going to want to change that. But the methodology of how we control that camera, things like depth of field or stereoscopic rendering, whatever, we could do those with visual overlays at some point that make it much more visually intuitive than going to a numeric keypad and typing it in. I suppose that was a very complicated way of saying we're thinking ahead. So we want it to be as seamless for people as possible, but it is going to change and it is going to get vastly improved. With regards to the development strategy overall, obviously we plan ahead and those sort of things, but it is also a case of we put all our resources into that. So the vast majority of our resources are in programming, and so it just so from an end user point of view, so they know we're putting everything on the screen. Everything's going into the interface. Everything's going onto functionality.
What is your current focus with Lightwave?
We're now in the position where we should be shouting now about Lightwave, right, and what it is. So from the education point of view, the VR's in there, AR's in there, all of the things you want to be able to create anything in any industry are built in. So from an education standpoint, it is free. There is no excuse now not to be using Lightwave as your main learning source, both in the States, Japan, Europe, everywhere. It's by far the most powerful single package with more features in than any other package. So from a learning point of view, the thing we're just putting together at the moment is a curriculum, and we'll even write a curriculum for teaching it. Over the next month or so, and we'll get that out as well. You don't need that. There's loads of tutorials on the manual's really well written. We've got a great tutorial section on the website to help new users, but we are literally writing a curriculum for teaching Lightwave to help educators. But what we also need to do is some kind of rental system. Then people can pay a much lower fee per month, which then basically means they get the whole of the program, but you're basically renting it for a year, 6 months, or whatever the case may be. That would effectively reduce the footprint cost of Lightwave, and Lightwave is cheap already. So we are going to probably do that sooner rather than later, I think. It is now the time, I think, to talk about actually why is Lightwave still used for doing almost every major TV show you see? So that's things like Westworld, it's Fallout. On the film side, from Star Trek to Avatar: Way of Water, Top Gun, it's again used extensively on most major films. It is relevant because it's faster. It's faster, quicker, and able to do more than any other package inbuilt for that amount of money. Period. It now is the time to shout about that, I think, and I've been very wary of that for the last few years because we've been rebuilding, and we're only going to go stronger. We're only going to go bigger. We're only going to go faster, and we're only going to be adding more new technologies. But also, Lightwave is playing nice with everybody else. So we're finishing a link that works direct with Houdini, so you can transfer Houdini scenes back to Lightwave seamlessly. We're doing the same with Maya. So we're rebuilding something which, a terrible name, it used to be called the Beaver Project. So I'm having that transferred across as well. And we've got obviously the Unreal link, which is totally seamless. So you can animate in Lightwave and it basically updates in real time in Unreal. We've got Octane in there. Then, of course, we've got the internal render engine in Lightwave has been updated and is now really top notch. And obviously we've got Ripper for doing your previews instantaneously, which are real-time animation tools for people doing character animation on animated TV shows and films are automated now for the backdrop characters. It traditionally takes a day to do a decent walk cycle of a character walking across the back of a scene. It takes 30 seconds in Step It. My aim is not just to lead in 4 or 5 areas, it is to lead in every area. And it's already the fastest to animate in. So if it's the fastest to animate in, has the fastest render capability with Octane, Unreal, and the Lightwave render engine, and they're all compatible, by the way, with each other. So if it has that built in and Ripper, you know, how far behind are we? I don't think we're that far behind at all. I think we're ahead. Yeah. So, you know, it's just about getting that message across.
You've partnered with a number of different companies. Can you tell us a bit more about why you've chosen those and who else you have on your radar?
On the simplest part of it, we partnered obviously with a lot of programmers and those sort of things initially. So a lot of the guys who created sort of plugins for Lightwave that were either charged for or free, we got them on board as quickly as we could, because we always wanted, I mean, remember, a lot of the reason those plugins were created was to fill gaps that Lightwave didn't have. So by buying them and putting them in, it filled those gaps, right? And filled those gaps and made it easy for the end user to access because they're all built in. On top of that, it enabled us to speed them up, put the latest libraries in and do things that the third-party plugin people would have difficulties doing. So we did that across the board. That was the first set of partnerships. Those sort of collaborations have been very successful for the 3 updates we've done. But also on top of that, the OTOY guys have been fantastic, frankly. So we didn't make any sort of major noise about it, but when we bought Lightwave, and the render engine worked, but it had some major flaws that made it very slow, and they're repaired now and they're sorted, and it's now very fast for the kind of render engine it is. But we needed Octane, we needed OTOY, and it's a great render technology. We wanted to have that in. So across the board, the OTOY guys didn't just want to help us. They you know, basically offered to let us put a single GPU version of Octane in Lightwave as standard. And I think when we did that, it was the first package that had that built in. So that's those sort of partnerships. The next thing is on the industry side, we have partnered some of the guys who did things like the Beaver project for Maya, and the guys who made the linking tools for Houdini. And we contacted all of those. They've either handed over the code or they're working on new versions to update those links. And again, that is mega important to us. And one of the new ones we're working on is a link to Blackmagic. So Lightwave still works, still has a format that you can transfer between the two. And most people forget it, don't even know it's there, but it is. And it means that we've got an exceptionally good link with that package. And we're just about to start contacting them. At the moment, we're using a bunch of guys who are third-party programmers to work with them, effectively creating a dedicated link between Fusion and Lightwave. That's coming, but obviously we want to take that significantly further. And again, they've got people there who are ex-Lightwave people. So where possible, we will partner with people and always do that, especially with pieces of software that we think are great. So, you know, the reason Maya has some unbelievably good tools, and it's a fantastic package. And so partnering with that makes total sense.
Did you think you'd be at this point by Lightwave Digital's 2nd anniversary?
No. So, I mean, to put it bluntly, we on the first 5-year plan, we had, where we hit this update was 3 years into the plan. Mm-hmm. So we were 1 year ahead of where we thought we would be. And that's not for every element, but you know, we didn't expect to get the anime thing sorted out so quickly, and we didn't expect to get the real-time engine working as well as it was so quickly, and the character animation, step it, pick it, and those sort of tools we thought were going to take a lot longer. I cannot believe how well our programmers have done and how well our team have done, but we could not have done that without the goodwill of so many people. You know, the amount of people coming out of the woodwork and helping us, you know, oh, I know how to do that library, let me show you, you know, sort of, oh, if you want to update that, why don't you try this, and boom. Also, we took on AI to help with coding across the board, and that has sped things up dramatically. So we're going to be able to do amazing things with that stuff. We just got to be able to think through how we want to utilize it. But obviously things like advanced AI for noise reduction, for correcting animation or smoothing out animation, for rendering, those sort of things. All of those sort of things are things that we'll obviously add. But are we ahead of what we planned? Absolutely. And I can only see that getting faster, as time goes forward.
What has been the most challenging thing you've had to deal with?
One of the upsides I have is I have a Joe, and Joe. There's very few people I can talk to about higher level stuff, and instantaneously they get it, right? And so when I got Joe involved, I didn't know it straight away, but I'd obviously met someone who super bright, super clever, and so I'm able to go to Joe, and Joe, and likewise she'll bounce stuff from me, and we're able just to go, and we immediately get excited. So I find myself, I'm now 62, right? I feel, bar when I'm looking at a camera picture of myself, when I'm talking to Joe, I feel like I'm 22 again. It's that I never lose the enthusiasm, and I've got juice, super enthusiastic. Yes, there's been some negatives, but the upsides have far outweighed those negatives. And any difficulties we experienced, our end users got us through them. And the team we've got now internally are just fantastic. So this is back to, for me, it's like a family feel. You don't just get up in the morning because it's money and because you're making money. You get up in the morning because the end users are working on that film, that TV show. They're nice guys, and you want to deliver for them, and it's fun. We don't see Lightwave as being something to beat every other package. We see Lightwave as being something to work with the best packages in the world to create the best content for the best price. So last thing on this point, anybody who's ever been around me for any amount of time will know I don't have any issue coming up with ideas, and I have also pretty much endless amounts of enthusiasm to drive those things. So imagine, I met Joe and she is exactly the same. So, and then Juice, exactly the same. All the guys, highly enthusiastic. So our problem are not ideas. Our problem, really, we've got the 5 or 10-year plan. Frankly, if we sat down tomorrow, we'd have a 20-year plan, and we could add another 100,000 ideas to the ideas we've got for the 5-year plan and 10-year plan. The ideas aren't the issue. We're only limited by our imagination, and we have big imaginations.
What are you the most proud of about Lightwave?
Me. No. Most proud of, there's the obvious thing. That I'm super proud of what we've achieved in 2 years. We're 1 year ahead of what we thought it would be. I'm super proud of that. I'm super proud of what we've got planned coming, because I know we're going to achieve it. So that sounds daft, but unless you have the team around you that can do it, you don't know that you're going to be able to produce something. I know right now, everything we've got planned is more than capable within the team of programmers we have in-house, right? So yes, I'm proud about what we've achieved, but I'm mega proud of the coders we've got and what they're doing, and the team we've got. You guys on the marketing are getting things out to markets we've never thought of doing. I never would have thought of doing, and that's it's we've got Tony, who's unbelievable, and you've got the coders, all of them, by the way, every single one of them, all the third-party people, Ben Ben and Matt on the documentation, across the board, the team have been extraordinary. And then how proud am I of the guys who stuck with Lightwave for all those years doing TV shows and films, who are still producing stuff, who've all come out of the woodwork, who are producing stuff that I never knew was Lightwave. And I've been watching some of these shows. Oh my God, that's good. And then someone says to you, yeah, it was all done in Lightwave. Wow. Lightwave dominated the industry for many years. So you had companies which are old companies like Digital Domain, who I only recently realized use Lightwave for all their rendering. So although they did Titanic and they did Terminator 2 and so on, in other packages as well as Lightwave, all the rendering was done in Lightwave, right? So everybody knows that. But then you start thinking about Avatar: Way of Water, and you start thinking about Batman Ninja anime movie. Fantastic, by the way, if you've not seen it. And then you've got Westworld, which was a staggeringly huge TV series for many years. Again, loads of the effects, a lot of the effects done with Lightwave. And then James Bond, several James Bond movies, assets created for that were done 3D printing at Pinewood, using Lightwave. Shots on the Star Wars TV shows, shots on the Star Wars movies, shots on the Marvel stuff, props on the Marvel movies, extensively across the industry. Beetlejuice, I didn't know, done in Lightwave, the new Beetlejuice. It's everything to do with what we've done and what we're part of, and we are just part of it. It's not us, it's everything, isn't it? Without them producing the great art, it wouldn't inspire you to carry on producing great tools. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, a circle of that is absolutely necessary to something, and without them doing great work, we don't then get inspired to do the right kind of programming. So every bit of that is essential, and so I'm proud of the team we have. I'm proud of the end users we have, and I'm proud of what we've achieved within a stupidly short period of time. So yeah, very proud of. I hadn't been able to make that statement, by the way, for 15 years. 15 odd years ago, I used to say a very similar thing when we was using it and we were handling the distribution, and I haven't really been able to say it until today, and I'm so pleased. I didn't think I'd be saying that for 5 years, so I wow.
What's your favorite project that you've created in Lightwave?
God, I've worked on some shockingly bad movies, and frankly, shockingly bad TV shows. I think there was and some shockingly good ones. The effects we created on Outcast for the BBC at the old Darkside company were very good, but they were the show failed. But the effects we did on it, sometimes you'd never know they were even effects. They were so good and they were really well done. And they were worked on. We had Alan Marks. Alan Marks has now passed away, and he was one of the great visual effects supervisors. And we had him with us working on that, employed at Darkside at the time. And that was a fantastic show, and it unfortunately didn't take off. Ironically, the thing I've always loved doing most is animating cartoon stuff, and I tried for years to get animated movies going and those sort of things, never done it. And the irony is now I get to animate a couple of animated pieces every few months for us, and they're done really fast, and so normally it has me and Sean, or one or two of us working on those animations, or me on my own working on those animations, and we pump them out mega quickly. So those things I think are frankly the thing I'm having most fun doing, and I've liked doing the most. And you guys are often telling me, we need one on this, we need something on this, or I now need something with a hat, whatever. And so it's fun doing that stuff. The thing that probably I've enjoyed the most, it's been fun working on some of the bigger films, it's fun working on some of the bigger TV shows, but really the stuff we're doing here, it gives me more pleasure than anything I've ever worked on ever.
So what's next for Lightwave?
So yeah, traditionally this is where I get bleeped out, or the video goes black, or I go to applause or whatever. I suppose all I can say is a hint.